Hi, my name is Candace Olson, and this is for PE 589. So I did my whole entire project on technologies and its effects on childhood obesity. In order to help fight this childhood epidemic that we have going on, we must first understand why it's happening. So we have to investigate possible causes. So one possible cause that I'm investigating is the technology aspect. With increased technology is an increase in obesity. So the purpose of this research was to determine, is there a correlation between childhood obesity and technology, and if so, to what extent? The central research questions were, what is the correlation between the hours a child spends on technology and childhood obesity, and to what extent does the child spending on this technology have on childhood obesity? My faith, values, and beliefs play a lot into all this, especially when I'm researching. The Bible teaches us to say no to ungodly and worldly passions and to live a self-controlled life. So I think the self-controlled life is a key aspect here. We are in a time where everyone is living, I feel like, with not a lot of self-control. Whether it's drinking too much, using drugs, and so on. But unhealthy food and eating bad can be living not a self-controlled life. We need to live a self-controlled life. Well, eating unhealthy and gaining weight and all this is playing into that. It's not what our bodies were designed. Our bodies weren't designed to be obese and everything. It's causing a ton of different health problems and all of that. And in the United States, unhealthy food is used often as a reward. So we only have one body, one life, and one soul. So we need to treat our body like the temple that it is. I feel very strong about trying to fight this epidemic. I'm now moving into the physical education world from math, and I feel like it's my responsibility to educate the masses on the childhood epidemic and give them the tools to help fight this. Okay, so I researched, and one of the articles that I found was really interesting. It was about reducing the time children spend on TV or watching television. So reducing that time and then seeing, does it actually affect a child's BMI? If they were watching 5 hours and now decrease it to 2 hours, is it decreasing their BMI? So the whole purpose of this one was to see, will it reduce the BMI? So it was over a school year. 18 lessons were taught. The 18 lessons had stuff to do with healthy eating, being physically active, and all of that. And then they put interventions in place. So they had a control group, and then they had the intervention group. The control group had 121 students, whereas the intervention had 106. They were 3rd and 4th grade students. So how they did this was they gave a survey, and they calculated BMI. So they needed weight, height, they wanted the child's age, and all of that to come up with the BMI. Then they put electronic television timers on. So the control group could watch as much TV as they wanted, and the intervention group had a timer. So when they met their allotted time, the TV would just shut off and they were done. For the day. The control group saw bigger increases, if you look here, than did the intervention. So if we look at BMI, the BMI of the control group increased by 0.71, whereas the intervention had only increased by 0.29. We're seeing an increase in both because these are 3rd and 4th graders, so they're growing, they're changing, and all of that. Their triceps, again, the triceps of the control group grew 2.49, whereas the intervention only grew 0.92. So that's more than double. So more than double for BMI and more than double for triceps. And then the waist circumference, the control group went up 5.2 centimeters as the intervention went 3.9. So still a bigger increase, not quite doubles, but still an increase. So what they decided and what they learned was that reducing television exposure can decrease the amount of growth that they're going to have in some of these categories. So it was a very interesting article. Then there was another one that I read about televisions in bedrooms. And they wanted this group of researchers wanted to figure out if there was an association between televisions in bedrooms and a child's BMI. So this was over a 4-year period. They took BMIs and then they categorized them: normal weight, overweight, and obese. They took these by the CDC. They took all those, the same things that I used in mine. So over the 95th percentile was considered obese. Over the 85th percentile was considered overweight. They used rating scales. They had demographic questions. They did an initial, a 2-year, and a 4-year. So they got surveyed at all of those. There was 6,522 participants. They were 10 to 14 years old. They used a survey. They checked viewing time, if they had a bedroom in their TV, how much they watched movies, how much they played video games. The results indicated that 59% of these students actually had TVs in their bedroom. And the participants' BMI was 1.16 larger at year 2 and 1.31 larger at year 4 if they had televisions in their bedrooms. So their BMIs grew a lot more if they had televisions in their bedrooms. So the increase in media usage, increase in sedentary lives, all caused for an increase in BMIs. Okay, then I read a third article, and it was how do exposures to unhealthy TV ads, is there an association between that and how much children are consuming fast food and soft drinks, basically. So this was done with kindergartners. They used rating scales. There was 9,760 participants. It was done throughout these years, so 98 to 2007. There was 5 assessments throughout this whole time. So they looked at things like BMI, exposure to food advertisements, and actually how much food they consumed in these times. So they found out that an increase in TV ads was associated with a 9.4 increase in consumption. So the more they watched advertisements about this, the more they consumed. When the participants had a BMI of the 85th percentile or above, they had a 1.5 increase when they watched more TV ads, and that happened for fast food as well. So they realized that increased exposure led to increased BMI, which led to increase of unhealthy eating. So all kind of went hand in hand. Okay, then I started mine. So the first thing was I had to get approval. Once I got approval, then I recruited my participants. My participants were at the school I actually teach at, and they were 7th and 8th grade math students, actually, to make sure I didn't get repeated students. So they had to fill out an informed consent form. I had to send them the survey via email. They all did that in class, my class and another teacher's class. I used a quantitative descriptive way, and then it was a survey research. So the participants were 41 7th graders and 55 8th graders from my school. They filled out the survey on Google Forms, which was nice because it collected data. There was 9 demographic questions, there was 5 to assess technology usage, and then 6 to assess the extent each participant uses technology. Okay, and then my results. So the first part of it was how many hours per day on average does the participant spend watching TV and movies, playing video games, spending on social media, and playing outside, which some of this information was very interesting. If you look here, this means 4 hours. That means they at least, on average, per day, spent 4 hours, which is a lot, watching television. Well, if you look, the N means normal, so these were all the participants categorized as normal. 2.7 of them watched at least 4 hours a day. Then you go to the students considered overweight, and it was almost twice as much. So 4.7% of them watched. Then if you go down to the students considered obese, 7.14% of them would watch 4 or more hours of TV. Now, a lot of things I read, it's recommended less than 2 hours, but the more overweight overweight the child, the more it seemed like the children were watching TV. For playing video games, it was kind of similar. The normal weight was about the same, 2.27, spent 4 or more hours. The overweight category, though, as you can see, 8.33. So that's more than triple the amount here. And then it went back down a little for the obese category. Social media I found really interesting because spending 4 or more hours, it was the students in the normal weight category that spent the majority of time. Now, I don't know if that could be due to when you're on social media, you could be doing stuff. I see a lot of my students, they'll be like multitasking on social media and stuff. So when you're watching TV, you're more sedentary because being on social media, you could be doing stuff. You could be playing sports on social media and Snapchatting your sports and stuff. So I don't know if that played into it. But the students considered obese had a higher number than the overweight, but less than the students considered normal. Now for playing outside. Playing outside, the students who were considered obese definitely played outside less than the participants in the normal weight. So the normal weight participants played outside, it looks like 4 times almost as much. And then that would be almost double for the overweight. Then it got a little more interesting. So then I asked questions and they had to rate if they agreed, disagreed, strongly disagreed, or agreed to some of these questions. So if they had free time, would they want to watch TV? And these were more all around kind of, but so the TV, they kind of lined up and go hand in hand. The participants of normal weight, 40% of them would want to. Overweight, 37, so a little lower. But of the obese students or participants, 57, so 17% more would want to spend more time watching TV. Using their cell phones, it was about even for normal and overweight. And the participants considered over or obese actually wanted to use their cell phones less than the normal. So that didn't really agree with this as much. And then when we look at playing video games, the participants who were considered obese definitely wanted to play more than the normal weight. And then playing outside, they were pretty even for normal weight and obese. The overweight was a little lower. So overall, though, you can see that for watching TV, playing video games, the participants of normal weight are playing less TV, are playing less video games and watching less TV. And the normal weight ones are playing more outside. Which playing outside is not sedentary, while being in the house, watching TV, movies, and playing video games is sedentary, so that is in fact causing this childhood obesity epidemic. So then when I went to compare my research to the research already done, there was a lot of similarities. So reducing the amount of time students watch TV and play video games does reduce BMIs. Another study that I talked about earlier also talked about that. Mine would show that too, because if you looked, more were watching it here and more wanted to hear. So if you reduced it, they would be less sedentary and would get more physical activity. So children classified as obese are 3.5 times more likely to watch 4 or more hours of TV. That was similar with another study too. So my study and that study were exactly similar. TVs, we learned in the bedroom, cause for an increase. Sedentary lives can increase that. BMIs increased as television increased. So those were a lot of the similarities. The one thing that my study looked into that most of the other ones didn't was the social media aspect. However, with the social media aspect, I did not really get a conclusion on any of that. The normal weight actually watched or spent more time on social media. And the overweight spent the least and the obese the second. So that was kind of unclear. And none of the other studies I found actually discuss the social media aspect. So, my recommendation would be there needs to be research done on the social media, because social media has grown so much over the years that I think the social media aspect is going to be the next thing that needs to be looked at. TV was looked at hard, video games was looked into deeply by me and other researchers. So I think what we all need to do is the parents need to be educated, the teachers need to, and the children. We all need to rally together, and we need to not only tell the parents and students just to eat healthy, but we need to tell them how to eat healthy. We need to tell them what's affecting childhood obesity. We need to tell them that they need to get up and get moving. They need to understand what different aspects are going into childhood obesity so we can help this epidemic. The parents can't do it alone, the teachers can't do it alone, and the kids can't. The kids, are relying on their parents and teachers to educate them on this, and we have to educate them on how to live a healthier life. And we have to educate them on technology and how it's affecting their obesity, but we also technology can be a great tool. So we need to give them apps that will help them and inspire them to get fit and healthy. So we need to turn the technology aspect from maybe not a positive at the moment, it's affecting, and we need to make it a positive. How can we use technology to help this epidemic? I think it's important for future research to be done on what other technologies besides just TVs and movies and all of that, and video games are how they're affecting. I think limiting technology is a key, but like I said, we need to change technology from being a negative of just being sedentary to a positive and helping with the obesity epidemic. All right. Thank you so much for your time. Bye.